So today we are doing Time to Celebrate with Rachel Riggs. Again, this is our Teacher Tuesday topics, and if you have any suggestions of topics that you would like to see for Teacher Tuesday, please email me or use the survey link and to give me your suggestions. At this time, I would like to welcome Rachel Riggs. She is an ESL instructional specialist for the Adult Education Department of Frederick Community College in Maryland. She has spent the last year supporting local and international adult educators as they navigate emergency remote teaching. Her support comes in the form of webinars, professional development, and one-on-one training in the areas of EdTech integration and building digital skills. She's looking forward to reflecting with the TCAL team as we take a look back at the last year and a look ahead at what's to come. And I also want to do a shout out to Ashley Winkle for bringing Rachel to Texas, all the way from Maryland. And this is part 1, and she will be doing part 2 on June 15th. So make sure you join us then as well.
Thank you so much, Krista. And hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you all today. I wish I really was in Texas today. I actually almost moved to Texas before the pandemic. We were going to move to San Antonio, but some of the jobs fell through that we were going to. So at least I get to do a presentation with you guys, and not even so much a presentation as just kind of a gathering of the minds and a time to re-energize and re-motivate. It has been such a taxing year in some ways, but also very energizing and exciting year for education. And I'm really excited. Like Krista said, I'm usually talking about educational technology and digital literacy and things like that. So I was really excited when the request was just, something to motivate our teachers to move forward. And so today's session will be less of me talking and informing and those things. It'll be more of us coming together as teachers and talking about what we've experienced in the last year and celebrating everything that we've accomplished, it's so worth celebrating. So if you guys don't mind, I see that a lot of people have introduced themselves in the chat, and that's great. There are a lot of acronyms and things that I don't understand at all because I don't work in Texas, apparently. So if you wouldn't mind actually going back to the chat and introducing yourself and telling me what you teach, I would love to know. So if you guys can go back to the chat and just say, I teach math, I teach ESL, or whatever it is, that would be awesome. Okay, thanks, Miranda. I saw your response actually further up too, that you teach remote ESL. That's great. I also come from an ESL background, and so a lot of my focus is on ESL instruction. Okay, and then we have math and science GED, awesome. Distance learning lead, okay, great. Such an important role over the last year. We have coordinators, cool, testers. ESL. Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys. It always helps just to kind of have an idea of where people are coming from. Integrated education and training. Okay, instructional coordinators. Cool. So we have a really good mixed group here. Hi, Tiffany. I recognize your name from the EdTech Makerspace. So happy to see you. Awesome. We got people from all different types of classes, different roles, and that's exciting. And so today when I talk about, I'm going to mention teachers a lot, and I see that we have some people who are maybe no longer in the role of teachers. So let's just think of ourselves all as educators, and we can respond from that perspective. Okay, so like Krista said, I'm Rachel Riggs. I live in Frederick, Maryland, where if you haven't read about the Brood X cicadas, they are all over my yard. So go Google that and you'll have a fun read about that. And like I said, I have a background in ESL teaching, and I kind of specialize or focus a lot of my energy on EdTech and digital literacy. So during this session, it's all about celebrating. I hope you guys are ready to unmute and to get in breakout rooms and to be creative and all that stuff, because we're going to incorporate all of that during this session. So first, we're just going to talk about why was this a special year for educators? And then we're going to break down this idea of emergency remote teaching into a couple of parts: emergency teaching and remote teaching, and what they mean to us and how they impact us. Closer to the end of the session, we're going to move toward finding my educator happy place. And so that will be the first half of some more activity that we'll be doing in session 2 on June 15th. And then section 5, I'll just give the date again for the next session. So a special year. Why was this a special year? This was a special year because we all, or at least myself, I was introduced for the first time to emergency remote teaching. And one thing that I have a quote that I repeatedly used since, March of, 2020, is this quote: "We have not come this far to only come this far." And I kept kind of repeating that to myself. I was repeating it to the teachers that I work with as a reminder that we were plunged into a very unique situation, and we shouldn't stop here, right? We shouldn't say, okay, you know what, we're going back to campus. We don't have to wear masks anymore. We're all vaccinated, and let's go back exactly to what we were doing before. I want to use the emergency remote teaching that we have gone through to tap into, oh my goodness, these are my strengths. This is who I am as an educator. This is what I bring to the table. And I want to launch us all into a new year of, we can now gather together, and how does that change what we start doing in the next year and in the rest of our future as educators? So I would love if you guys want to just respond in the chat with, what did this year teach you about yourself? Let us know something that this year has taught you about yourself. What did this year teach you about yourself? I know you're probably just thinking. I should give thinking time like a good teacher would. Oh, thank you, Claire. Claire's the first one. I'm adaptable and can learn new and better ways of doing things. Awesome. I can bond with people, even strangers, over Zoom, which is arguably one of the most awkward formats for building rapport. I would probably have to agree with that. Be patient and do the best. Get used to being on camera. That's funny. I know, I noticed myself buying a lot of new shirts and like wearing jeans every day. I learned a lot about remote, but prefer in person. And that's great. And that's fine. I think so many of us could say that, right? We have learned a lot about technology and we're ready to maybe be back in a classroom. I get that. It's been interesting, but challenging. Taught me to be flexible. I'm now more comfortable in an online setting. Awesome. Great. Okay, yeah. So we have learned, it looks like mostly we've learned a lot about our adaptability, our flexibility, working and teaching in a new format. Gloria says, this year taught me that I could really enjoy teaching online and actually communicate effectively with students. And I like that technology means I can always improve. Lots of ways to give grace and handle wonky tech issues. Yes, we all have Zoom mishaps. I agree. Tracy, I think grace has been like such a big thing that has come from this, right? We're all okay with your child interrupting a meeting. We're now okay with you not being the consummate professional during every presentation. I think that has been an amazing positive change in the workplace, is just extending a little bit more grace to people in their unique circumstances. Awesome. Yes, I think we have all learned a lot about ourselves, about other people, about humanity. And this has all come from emergency remote teaching. So emergency remote teaching, like I said, this is something new to me. I don't know how new it is to all of you or how much you may have studied it in the past, but the more that I have dove into it, feel free to correct my English, any of you English teachers, I have realized that emergency remote teaching is not just something that came about because of COVID-19, because of the coronavirus. It's actually something that has some history. And if anyone here knows some of the stories of when emergency remote teaching has happened in the past, and you want to share that in the chat, that would be awesome. Because I think there are a lot of really unique circumstances where this has been necessary, but we're not fully aware of that. And so even in my reading, one of the stories I read about was when there was a lot of conflict and crisis happening in Afghanistan. And the target was girls who were receiving an education. And so some Afghani education systems had to switch to emergency remote teaching, and they used the radio and DVDs to deliver education to these girls specifically, but even to other students who were impacted by the conflict. And I just was fascinated by that. And I'm really fascinated by other stories of when this has had to happen outside of the coronavirus situation that we all have been through. So emergency remote teaching is a temporary shift of instructional delivery to an alternate delivery mode due to crisis circumstances. And that is from Educase. I would recommend, if you are interested in more of the history, this article by Educase, The Difference Between Emergency Remote Teaching and Online Learning. That there's a lot of good stuff in there. So emergency remote teaching is kind of characterized by an enhanced need for problem solving, right? So that's something that obviously we all know now, right? We had to look at things in a lot of different situations, and we had to be quick on our feet to come up with new solutions. Emergency remote teaching also requires an increased burden of instructional design. And so I don't know if that resonates with some of you, but having to spend a lot more time lesson planning and really thinking through the delivery of your instruction, whereas in the past it may have flowed a little more effortlessly. It also requires an increased amount of teacher support because, of course, teachers are thrown into a new situation and it happens quick and it's in response to circumstances that are impacting many other areas of life. And so teacher support is one of the big needs that it brings up. And then obviously it's rapid and usually temporary. Once that crisis subsides, then things kind of go back to normal, right? And so that's emergency remote teaching. And I like to go over this because, first of all, because I find it interesting, but second of all, because I always want to remind educators that what you've been doing over the last year isn't normal. It's not the status quo. And so I think we are still measuring ourselves according to the status quo, right? We're still saying to ourselves, oh my gosh, I should be better at this. I should know how to stay in touch with my students better. I should know how to make slide presentations prettier. And we're still measuring ourselves to kind of a normal circumstance. But I like to say to all of you and to all of the teachers I come in contact with that what you've been doing over the last year is so unique and so challenging. And so celebrate it. Celebrate whatever you were able to learn or accomplish. And if you really rocked it, celebrate that. If you really feel like it was a flop for you, celebrate the fact that you tried, right? But just celebrate that you were a part of something very historical and unique, and you rose to the occasion and you gave it an effort. So for engagement during this session, you guys, we're going to be using breakout rooms. We're also going to be using something called Jamboard. And so if you could put in the chat box whether you are familiar with using Jamboard and comfortable with it, just give me a yes or no. Yes, I use Jamboard. No, I don't know what that is. This will help me know how in depth to go in my little tutorial. Okay, so we have a couple of yeses, some nos. Okay, great. So I'm going to show you guys a couple of the features, and then what I'm going to do is you guys are going to use Jamboard in your groups. Now, when you get in a group, only one person really needs to be making the Jamboard. So if you want to choose someone in your group who's comfortable with it, that would probably be a great idea. So, identify that person and just say, hey, can you share your screen and create the Jamboard for us? But before that, I do want to show you some of the features. of Jamboard. Okay, so Jamboard, they refer to it as a digital whiteboard. And so it's something that you can use like you would use a whiteboard. You can draw on it, you can add text to it, you can add images to it. And like a whiteboard, you could prepare it ahead of time for use in class, right? So you can set it up for certain activities, or you can use it impromptu in the moment to illustrate a certain concept or whatever. So this is what the screen looks like on Jamboard. It's a Google product, it's free, and I just really enjoy it because it's nice and simple for people to use. So in Jamboard, you have over here a toolbar. So you have like a pen, an eraser, a mouse, and then this one here is a sticky note, and that's what you will be using a little bit later on. This one is for adding images to your Jamboard. So you can click on that and you can add an image from your computer, or you can Google an image and use an image from that search. You can add shapes, text, or this is just a laser pointer. So if you're presenting something, you can point around on your Jamboard. Then up here, we have another toolbar. Obviously, we have an undo and a redo button, a zoom button, set background, and then clear frame. So clear frame will take everything away. Set background will give you a background. They have pre-made ones, or you can add an image as your background. And then up here, we have a little frame navigation. So you'll see in this Jamboard, there are 7 frames, and you can use this button to navigate to other frames. Okay, so that's Jamboard. What I'm gonna do is we are going to break into groups. Give me 1 second. I need to get back to my slides and show you guys what you're gonna do. Okay. And what has happened is, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the news, but coronavirus has spread to other planets in the solar system. And we have been contacted by some aliens who need to know more about emergency remote teaching because they really need to transition their educational systems to something remote so as to not spread coronavirus on their planet. So what you guys will do is in your groups, you're going to have to come up with a way visually to explain to the aliens what emergency remote teaching is. You can use images or symbols, but they obviously don't understand English, or we would just let them know, we would tell them. Okay, so I'm gonna put you guys in groups. And once you get into the group, one of the facilitators will join you and they'll give you the link to your Jamboard, and you can start to put those images and symbols on your Jamboard to let the aliens know what it's all about. Okay, explain emergency remote teaching, that's ERT, to an alien on your Jamboard. Okay, so I'm gonna open breakout rooms. They are automatically assigned, or they should be. Let's see, it doesn't look like it added anyone. So you know what, I'm gonna recreate them and automatically assign. We have 30 participants, so we're gonna have 6 breakout rooms. There will be about 5 participants per room. And like I said, we will come to your room and share the link with you and you can create your Jamboard. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, welcome back everyone. Welcome, welcome. I want to know really quick if there is maybe 1 or 2 groups that would be willing to share their Jamboards. So if you want to chat it or just go ahead and unmute and start sharing your screen, that would be fine. Okay, it looks like Miranda. Okay, so Miranda's group will go. Is there another one?
I can go next.
And Yvette. Okay, excellent. So go ahead, Miranda, if you want to share your Jamboard and let us know what you came up with.
Okay, let's see. All right, so we just came up with a variety of pictures that we felt like represented what your needs would be for emergency remote teaching, and that included things like being flexible, having grace, having an attitude of gratitude, a lot of patience, a lot of discipline, adaptability, and sense of humor. So we went more for the soft skills side, I think.
Great. Yes, lots of soft skills required. Thank you for sharing. This looks great. I love the humor one too. Yes, you must maintain a sense of humor. Okay. All right, Yvette, do you want to share yours?
Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can share my screen. Okay. Okay, awesome. So my team came up with the emergency symbol, and ours was working together to overcome challenges. And here we see, the challenge set before us. And there we are, remote learning and teamwork, which is a big one for us. Meeting of the minds and just all of us working together to overcome the challenge ahead.
I love it. That's so cool. I love all the people coming together. I feel like it really communicates the teamwork needed. And I even love the question marks that you have, because it's kind of like we're all in this together and we're all feeling equally clueless about it. And I even saw in some of your groups that some of you, Jamboard was new and you guys were coming together and had the questions, and it kind of reminded me of that initial start. Great.
Yes, you know what, Rachel? And for me, it is new for me, and I was a little bit worried that I wasn't going to be too savvy with it, but it was easy to use, and I liked it.
Yay! Awesome. Good. That's for celebrating.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So good. Ashley says she loved Jamboard. Awesome. I love it too. It's so easy to use. It's simple, so it makes it a little easier to use. And if you use a lot of Google stuff, it's great. It integrates with all of that. Okay, so emergency remote teaching, right? Something we were thrown into, something we should feel proud of. And I'm glad you guys had a chance to kind of talk about what really is it and how would we express that to someone else who was not familiar with it. So now I want to break that into those two words, emergency and remote. And what do you guys see in this picture, in these three pictures? So we have an emergency room here with nurses and doctors. We have a flood with two men in a lot of gear. And then we have a fire with two firemen. If you guys could use one word to describe all three of those pictures, what word would you use? You can just put it in the chat. Courage, disaster, helpers, stress, life-saving, trouble. Great. And if you had to describe the people in these pictures, what is one word that you would use to describe the people? Okay, Yvette said heroes. Yes, and that is what I was getting to, right? These are all heroes. They're lifesavers. They are courageous. And when we look at these pictures, obviously we know that they are in emergency situations. And they're responding, and that's what's heroic about them, is that they're responding in dangerous conditions, in the unknown, without knowing what's going to happen. And I always want to remind teachers that, and I have my sister is a nurse and my mom is a nurse in the emergency room. And so I don't in any way mean to demean the dangerous and urgent conditions that are displayed in these pictures. So I hope no one will be offended with me equating teachers with these heroes, because I do think that it's heroic of teachers to be so courageous and to respond when things were so uncertain and when our lives were really, Yvette said her daughter is an EMT. That's amazing. When our lives were really impacted by this emergency situation that was, we were facing a lot of unknowns in our personal lives too. It's not like we were just teaching and we didn't know how to do that. It's that we were facing so many other things and changes in our personal lives. And we had to stick with it for our students and continue to deliver education to our students. And so Tiffany says, we are heroes in education. And that's what I want to express to all of you guys, is that you are heroes. Emergency remote teaching was unknown. You were dealing with many challenges, and you are heroes for having endured the last year and some change with your students and continuing not just to deliver education to them, but to find innovative ways and approaches to do it in a way that they can all access it. So everyone clap for yourselves. You're heroes. Woohoo! So that's emergency teaching. And then the added challenge to that, right, is remote teaching. Remote teaching is, when you're physically distant, you're having to leverage all kinds of technology in order to reach out. And, some of it is asynchronous, and then some of it is synchronous. And then both of those are presenting unique challenges to each teacher, to each student, to all of our different contexts. And so teaching in an emergency is really hard. Teaching remote is also very difficult, especially when it's not planned for. What was the biggest challenge for you of remote teaching? Can you put that in the chat box? What was one of the biggest challenges? Cell phones. Yeah. So Ashley said cell phones, which is a big one, right? We didn't know, or maybe we weren't as aware going in of how many of our students would only be able to use mobile phones during class. Internet connections. How many of our students wouldn't even be able to connect to Zoom? Cats. How many of our students would get annoyed by the cat in our Zoom room? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, access. And Miranda, this was your first year teaching ESL. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Ashley said her husband. Yeah, we had so many challenges. The technology, getting students connected, but then also, even for me, I'm teaching with a 2-year-old in the same space as me. And so that's really challenging. It presented a lot of unique challenges this year. We had to train our family members. Yeah, mommy's in a meeting. Yes, absolutely. A lot of challenges. And so what we're going to do now, you guys, is we are going to create hero self-affirmations as a way of celebrating what you have gone through over the last year. And so just like we were looking at those first responders, and just like we're looking at these challenges of remote teaching, I want you to formulate a hero self-affirmation saying, I'm a hero because I, when my cat was meowing right in my face and crawling across my keyboard, okay? So I actually want you to take 2 minutes and write that down on a piece of paper. Write down your hero self-affirmation. I'm seeing a lot of people connecting over their different challenges. Yes. Okay, so now take that challenge and make it into a hero statement. And if you want to put it in the chat too, I would love that. But if you want to keep it private, please write it down, say it to yourself, believe it about yourself. You are a hero for what you have accomplished. You are a hero if you took a break over the last year from teaching and didn't teach because you had other things to attend to. You are still a hero for making that decision. Give yourself some credit for your heroic acts this year. If you feel like sharing that in the chat, please do. If you're not comfortable, just write it in your notebook, put it on a sticky note on your mirror. Oh, these are great. I'm so excited. I never gave up when it appeared things were not going to work. Good job, Gloria. You're a hero. I'm a hero because I can keep calm when everyone else is having a challenging day. Yay, hero, heroic. But I want you guys to write those down. I want you to tell someone today. Tell someone today, I am a hero because I blank when blank. And tell yourself that. And ask other people, let them know that they are heroes and ask them what they did, how they rose to the occasion. Let them express that to you. Yes, Daisy, you are a hero. You do make a difference. Okay, so we're going to skip this one for now so that we can get to our third one. Now, our third section here is going to be about celebrating our individuality. Okay, so we've gone through emergency remote teaching. That was a challenging situation. We're going to acknowledge to ourselves that we did a great job and that it's worth celebrating what we've done. And now we're going to move into what makes me an individual and why was I needed? Why did students need someone like me over the last year? So what I have done is I've come up with some teacher types, and I hope at least one will resonate with you. These were, I created them, so if you see that one's missing, you're probably right. You can put it in the chat. But the 4 teacher types that I want you to think about and choose, one, are the advocate, the brain, the techie, and the creator. The advocate is the teacher who is focused on impacting society as a whole, right? They see their purpose as a lot bigger than the classroom. They might see it as even political. They might see it as impacting the homes of their students. And the goal of the advocate is equity and change. They're trying to change things up. They're sick of the status quo. They're trying to move forward and provide more equitable education for their students and really address student needs outside of the classroom. So the advocate knows the personal struggles of each of their students. They lift the voices of their students, and they are not satisfied with just teaching. They are infusing all of their lessons with important societal issues. Okay, so this is the advocate. This is our first teacher type. So just think to yourself, am I the advocate? And let's look at the next one. The next one is the brain. The brain is focused on the content of the instruction. So the brain would be the English teacher who wants to present that English lesson as a formula that everyone's going to understand so that they can reach that objective. They are focused on the content. Their goal is to see students make progress. They want to see students really grasp that English lesson or the math concept and make progress in that area. The brain knows where each student stands, and they are very familiar with their strengths and weaknesses because they're focused on that progress. And they formulate detailed learning objectives and lesson plans because, again, they're tracking that progress. They want to make sure they're getting that content and really grasping it and mastering it. The brain is always looking at the next step to get students closer to their goals. What's the next thing? Okay, we've finished this algebra concept. What's next? Where can I take them next so that they reach their goals? The next one is the techie. The techie, we might all be feeling like techies after this year, but try to think of, beyond just this past year. The techie focuses on technology, obviously. They are working toward innovative design and delivery of the content. They know the latest ed tech tools, and they strategically implement them, or they strategically don't implement certain ed tech tools. And they accommodate students on whatever device and platform makes the most sense because they know how to navigate that world. And then we have the creator. The creator is focused on lessons and the presentation of learning. Their goal is to address the individuality of each student, and they use all modalities to reach students and to tap into all learning styles. So they're the Pinterest teachers who have it. They have the hands-on activity, and then they've got the beautiful presentation, and they are coming at it from every side, trying to make sure that every student is getting it in their own special way. And they're energized by challenging students, and they're eager to find a way to engage all students. Okay, so I hope that within those four, you have found your teacher type. So I want you to think about for a second, what is my teacher type? The advocate, the brain, the techie, and the creator. Advocate, brain, techie, and creator. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 4 breakout rooms now for you guys. And they are going to have those titles. This time, you're actually going to choose your room. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to have 4 rooms, and you guys are going to be able to choose from that list. So I just want you to choose which teacher type are you, and you're going to be put into a group of teachers that are that same type. And for our final breakout, this is transitioning us into our next session together. You guys are going to identify your type and think about, why was I so needed during emergency remote teaching? What did I offer? And if you have time to talk about it, talk about what energizes your type. That's going to bring us into the next session. What energizes you, and moving forward, how are we going to leverage that? Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms, and you choose your room, and I'm going to pop in with a Jamboard link for each room. Choose your room, and then I'll float around and share links, or somebody will come and share the link for your Jamboard. Okay, it looks like people are picking. Okay, we got some techies. We have an advocate, awesome. Okay, creators and brains, where do you go? More advocates, awesome, good. Oh, we got a brain and a creator, great. Okay, we've got someone in all the rooms, so you're not gonna be alone wherever you go, if that's what you're worried about. Okay, welcome back, guys. So what I would love for you to do is please join us next Tuesday. We're going to keep this conversation going about our different types, our individual styles and focuses and strengths. And we will continue celebrating ourselves as individuals. And what we're going to start doing is looking ahead. What comes next year now that we've learned all of this and we've grown so much and we've been heroes in our own right? What are we going to do moving forward? So I hope that you'll join me, please. I would love to see you guys again and to have another interactive and fun session.
We're just going to get started. Today is part 2 with Rachel Riggs, Looking Ahead. With me, supporting me today is Ashley Winkle and Laura Greer. And I'm going to introduce Rachel. She is an ESL instructional specialist for the Adult Education Department of Frederick Community College in Maryland. She spent the last year supporting local and international adult educators as they navigate emergency remote teaching. Her support comes in the form of webinars, professional development, and one-on-one training in the areas of ed tech integration and building digital skills. She's looking forward to reflecting with the TCAL and Texas Adult Education AEL team as we take a look back at the last year and look ahead at what's to come. Welcome, Rachel. We are so glad that you are here.
Thank you, Krista. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am so glad to be here on Teacher Tuesday, my favorite kind of Tuesday. And I love seeing all of your names and introductions in the chat, so please continue to introduce yourselves. I do have to add, only because, you know, from teacher to teacher, I like to share helpful little tips. I just got this at IKEA, you guys, and if you use Google Slides, you know it's hard to see your notes while you're presenting. I just got this little iPhone stand for $4 at IKEA, and it has changed my life. So this should be the smoothest presentation I've ever given. Anyway, so today we are going to be shifting from what we did 2 weeks ago. And if you didn't attend last time, welcome. It's okay. There's no, you know, we're not going to be like testing you on the last session or anything. But for the last session, we were kind of reflecting on the last year. And this session, I want to look ahead at what's to come and how we're going to launch into a new year as really new educators. We've learned so much, and so what are we going to do? How are we going to use all of that new knowledge to move into this next year? So like I said, introduce yourselves. Good morning, Meryl. Good morning, Angela. Hi, everyone. Hi, Hilda. I can see you guys in the chat, and I'm always monitoring the chat, so feel free to drop comments, questions, whatever in there. As Krista said, my name is Rachel Riggs, and I am in Frederick, Maryland. And you know what, she gave enough of an introduction, so I'm not going to talk about myself anymore. So today what we're going to do is I want to do a little bit of a recap of the last session because it's going to help us move into this session. And then we're going to revisit the teacher types that we talked about last session. We're going to categorize ourselves into one of those teacher types. And then we're going to talk about tapping in, and I'll explain more of that when we get there. Please be prepared to click on links, to type in the chat box, to unmute yourselves, to be in a breakout room. This is going to be super, a lot of participation, very collaborative and interactive. So, you know, if you left me in the bathroom, come get me and pay attention and interact with us, please. I don't think anybody did that, but just in case. Okay, so from last session, I'm curious to know if anyone here was present during the last session, and if you were, is there anything that stands out in your mind about last time? Is there anything that was memorable or impactful to you, an aha moment, or if you even just remember something that we did together in the last session. Put it in the chat box for me. Uh-oh, I'm trusting that you guys are thinking and typing. not that nothing was memorable. We'll see. Anything you remember. Okay, so Laura, you didn't make it. That's okay, no problem. If anyone was there and you can remember something from the last session, throw it in.
I'm typing something in. Give me a few minutes.
Okay, good. I thought maybe we were typing. I'm glad.
Thank you so much. I'm typing it in. Give me a few minutes.
No problem, Deborah. Okay, Ashley remembers Jamboard. Yes, we did a lot of Jamboard last time, and we will be revisiting Jamboard this time. So if you're, wanting to interact a little bit more on Jamboard or get a little intro to it, we will be doing that. Daisy says Jamboard too. Okay, you know what, teachers, you're always looking for those practical tools, huh? No problem, Tiffany. It's okay. I know you've been doing a lot in the last few weeks, Miranda. Okay, good. Good, Miranda, great. So Miranda remembers we were reflecting, looking at the challenges of the last year. We used Jamboard, and then she remembers her teacher type. Miranda is an advocate. Awesome. Okay, and then I know Deborah's answer's coming. I'm gonna go to my next slide while Deborah's typing. Here we go.
Well, it was determining my teacher type also.
Your teacher type, good. And we're gonna revisit that, like I said. Okay, so last session, it was 2 weeks ago now, so I get it. Teachers are busy, it's the end of the year. So no, I'm not trying to guilt anybody here. We talked about emergency remote teaching, and so we defined that, and I talked about how important it is to recognize that we were in an emergency situation over the last year, and what are the unique aspects of emergency remote teaching? How is it characterized in research? And then you guys spent some time working on a Jamboard to put together a visual, what can we call it? What are those called? You put a bunch of pictures together. Collage of visual representations of ERT if you needed to explain that to an alien, right? So that was kind of fun. We also did hero self-affirmations. So I do hope that that stuck with you. And I hope you remember that your response to the emergency and your perseverance and persistence in providing education to adults in your state makes you a hero. Those are stories you should be telling your kids and your grandkids for years to come about how important it was to you to deliver education and to cross digital divides and all of the heroic acts that educators have taken over the last year. So you're heroes, don't forget that. And then we left off with teacher types. And so everybody had kind of determined their teacher type. You guys were in breakout rooms and you were talking about why your teacher type was so important over the last year. So we're gonna go back to teacher types. And this time, instead of looking at how our teacher type was important over the last year, we're gonna look forward. That's what today is all about, looking ahead. And we're gonna figure out, how does my teacher type, how can I look at that to identify some things about myself that are going to help me re-energize and are going to re-motivate me moving into this next year. So we've got a lot to do today, and we've got a lot of collaboration. We've got a lot of discussion we're going to do. We don't have a lot of slides, so I'm going to roll right into it, and we're going to get started. So looking ahead into the teacher types, like I said, we used teacher types last time to look back. We were looking at, why was your teacher type so important during emergency remote teaching? Now we're going to use our two teacher types, and we're going to look forward, and we're going to talk about, how does the teacher type highlight your strengths and your unique challenges? And then how are you going to use your knowledge of those strengths and challenges to go into the next year of teaching, and what approaches are you going to take? So there were 4 teacher types that we talked about. The first one is the advocate, and then the brain, the techie, and the creator. The advocate has a focus on society. So the advocate is teaching to have an impact on society as a whole. And it's important to them to highlight societal issues in the classroom, And their goal is equity and change. The advocate is looking for forward motion, more equitable practice, and more awareness around critical issues that affect learners. Some of the unique characteristics of the advocate is that they really focus on and they know and are intimately familiar with the personal struggles of the learners in their classroom. They lift the voices of their students. They want their students to be heard, and they hear their students. They listen to their students. And they are not satisfied with just teaching the content. They infuse instruction with, like I said, important societal issues. And so we're talking about teachers who are focusing on bringing cultural awareness into the classroom, bringing debate into the classroom, and things like that. The next one is called the brain. The brain has a unique focus on content. I don't know, I identify probably with all the types, as I think everybody does, but I really got into TESOL because I just loved languages, and I loved studying English and breaking it apart, and I loved grammar and writing all of those things. And so that's kind of the brain. They're just kind of geeking out over the content that they're delivering. Their real goal is to see student progress. They want to see that, you know, they have their objectives and students are progressing through those objectives. The brain knows where each student stands, what their strengths and weaknesses are in terms of the content, and where they're headed. They formulate detailed learning objectives and lesson plans, and they're always looking at the next steps to get students closer to their goals. Okay, so that's the advocate and the brain. So start thinking about, who am I? Because I'm going to have you pick one. You can only pick one. I know you probably identify with all of them, but try to think at your most outstanding characteristics as a teacher, which one do they fall into? Advocate, brain, and the next one is the techie. The techie focuses on technology, obviously. Their goals are to provide an innovative, oh my goodness, what am I saying? Like an innovatively designed lesson, something that's cutting edge and cool and interactive, and leveraging technology to deliver instruction in a kind of new way. They know the latest ed tech tools, and they strategically implement them, or they strategically don't implement certain ones, which is valid too. And they accommodate students on any devices or platforms that make the most sense. They're good at identifying the technology that fits into different contexts, and with different content and with different objectives. So that's the techie. Okay, Tiffany, good. You're a techie. Good. So you guys think about, who am I? Which one am I? Then there's the creator, and I like to call this the Pinterest teacher. Okay, this is the bulletin boards. They're all over those bulletin boards. They are sprucing them up. They got the borders. They've got the glitter glue. They're just going nutso. So the creator focuses on lessons, on the individuality. So their goal is to infuse individuality into the lessons. And they use all modalities to reach students, and they want to tap into all learning styles or just any of the individual aspects of their students. Okay, cool. I'm seeing people. Good. We have creator / techie. You're going to have to choose just one. So, you got to figure out which one is most you, but yes. Okay, somebody says they're definitely not the creator. That's good. We could do the process of elimination too. I am not the creator either, so that does help to eliminate that one. But anyway, so the creator uses all different modalities. They are obviously creative. They want to focus on presenting the material in a variety of ways so that any kind of learner can grasp it. They're energized by challenging students, and they're eager to find a way to engage them. Jean, okay, awesome. Yay, we have some people who know exactly who they are. Good, so you guys are ready then, I guess. Any questions about the teacher types? We have the advocate, We have the advocate, the brain, the techie, and the creator. Do you have any questions to help you choose yours before I open up these breakout rooms? Okay, well, it looks good. Good. Okay, people are identifying with something. Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do is you guys are going to break into groups based off of your teacher type. And I'm going one person from the organizer logistics team we have here. One person's going to pop into your breakout room and share a Jamboard link with you. In the Jamboard, you're going to go to frames 2 and 3 and share your ideas on those frames. And I also want you to choose someone to share out at the end. So when we come back together, I want to hear from one person in your group who's going to give us the aha moments of your teacher type and what special things energize your teacher type and what special challenges your teacher type has. So I'm going to jump over to Jamboard and show you guys what that looks like and how to interact on it. And then I'll open up the breakout rooms. If I can get out of this window. Okay, there we go, I did it. Welcome back. As people are coming back, I want to know if you guys could guess which teacher type had 0 people in it. There was one teacher type that got no, nobody selected it.
No way.
You can guess in the chat box which one it was. And I'll give you.
I noticed that, Rachel. I was looking at the list and I noticed.
I'll give you 5 points if you can guess which group had
I
nobody.
can't think of the fourth option. Creator, advocate.
It was the brain.
Oh,
It was.
That too.
it's because the brain was in the main
Yeah.
room.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That's
Okay, so actually let me stop sharing because what I want to do is I want to hear from everyone. So let's start with the advocate group. Whoever was chosen to share out, let us know what were some aha moments you had about your type and what do you think other types should know about your type?
Okay, I'm Carol, and I was going to be the spokesperson, and
Yes, and I'm going to share my
Yes.
screen.
Miranda was going to share our screen. So what special projects energize, revising student orientation documents to get the most out of those documents, as much information, creating content for specific student needs, concerned with students knowing class is a safe place to ask questions, a safe environment, and then again, our registration, I think registration is a good place for us to learn a whole lot and start that building of trust with those students. Creating new ways to motivate students, especially on a personal level, concerned with how students are treated to one another and themselves. Put this in writing as beginning of class. So this is a known value and a framework to kind of set those standards at the beginning. Create content that links AEL concepts to real world scenarios that can be dissected in the classroom. Create a survey for students taken at the beginning of the course with general questions to gauge their knowledge base, resources available to them and time frame. Then flexibility, I thought that was really important in approaching content. And I think as an advocate, we need to ensure that students know that we care about their needs and that we are there to help them. So as advocates, we're really working for plugging in any holes that are there with students. If they need help in any areas, we're there trying to give them that safe place to ask questions and a place for answers and resources. And then things that demotivate students student doesn't understand due to language barriers. We're careful to use everyday language versus professional. Technical issues, criticism and negativity, the lack of optimism. We thrive on optimism, and lack of cultural awareness or a desire to understand diversity.
Wow, that's great. You guys really came up with a lot of good answers, good characteristics that help us understand the advocate a little bit better. Thank you guys for sharing. And then What about the brain? Oh, wait. I don't know if Krista and Laura, you guys are saying in the chat that you guys are brains. Do you want to share anything about what energizes the brain and what de-energizes them or not?
Well, data certainly motivates us. Give us good data and we can do lots of good stuff. And demotivating is things that don't seem to be sequential, that doesn't have a beginning and an end.
I was going to say structure and then chaos.
Okay, that sums it up. Okay, wonderful. Okay, and then the techie is next. We have the spokesperson from the techie group.
Hi, this is Meryl. I'm trying to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen? What special projects energize the techie? We had a lot of great collaboration and conversation around this. There's a lot of techies in that room. It was great to talk with everybody. Some of the things that we included that energized us techies, looking at the curriculum and finding opportunities to integrate technology in a meaningful way, training teachers to use technology in their classroom. Okay, finding opportunities to train and share new technology with staff and students. A lot of that happens like in the elevator or walking down the hallway in my area. Putting technology in the hands of students to empower the students to teach others. There's always those students that are a little advanced with technology compared to the others, and so put the device or the lesson technology integration device in the hands of the student to empower them to teach others. Innovative new projects. Techies like to create and do projects. And technology that makes the staff teachers' jobs faster and more efficient. There is a technology tool out there that can and will make the teacher, if they're willing, more efficient in their job duties and in their objectives.
Except the coffee IV drip. That hasn't come out yet, but.
What challenges demotivate the techie? You see how many there are here compared to, the amount we have for, energizing. Using a device as a babysitter, like if a teacher needed to do something and they're just using that to waste time, that really demotivates the techie. A lack of interest or enthusiasm. Not being willing to learn or improve digital literacy skills, being handed a big packet of paper, out-of-date technology or the lack of internet. I know a lot of us have probably experienced the out-of-date technology. Refusal to invest in needed technology. Those decision makers are the ones who write the paycheck or the checks. Their money is allocated to other things, and I got that. But be an advocate for our technology devices. If we don't share that, then that demotivates the techie. Difficulties accessing a computer lab. If our students don't have devices that can be utilized, going through all the red tape to, get assigned a lab and all that. The best way to teach technology is to have the hands of the students on the keyboard at the time of teaching. Refusal to use or feel limited to technology, and being surrounded by people who are not open to change. Like they've been doing the same thing over and over for years, and it works. They see results, but technology to me is a tool. It's like a pencil. It's a tool to make learning efficient and more creative and innovative. So
great, thank you. Wow, the passion really came through.
Oh, it sure did.
Okay, so we have 2 more minutes for the creator. So who was the spokesperson?
And that's all we need.
Awesome, thanks, Deborah.
So, Ms. Carlotta, can you put the screen up, or do you want to, or can you do it? So a couple of the persons that was in our room was unable to communicate. So Ms. Carlotta and I kind of gave our information. So what specialized project energized the creator? And this can be for any subject. So for the first one, it says to make sure that because I teach GED and I have all levels in my class. So when we went to the computer, I had to figure out how can I reach everybody at one time in this modem. And so what I tried to do was, and this is going to be, I just chose grammar. I said to make sure that all levels in the classes are able to participate. because of the grade levels, we recapped the parts of the speech. I did parts of the speech, and I did that with materials online as well as visuals online using the computer activities in order to engage the students. So that's our major things. We have to engage the students online here at all times. And that's one of the things that I found that help to keep them engaged when I'm working with all levels. Everybody has an opportunity in that learning style, whether they're visual, whether they're hands-on, whether they're audio, we have all those things working simultaneously. Then the other one for, I do a job search skills class at Harris County Department of Education. So after we do all of our things in order to successfully get the job, resume writing, cover letters, our last piece in this entity is going to be interviewing. So we do mock interviewing with the students there in the Harris County Jail. One becomes an employer, then one is the employee. So what we do there is we teach them how to recognize the questions within the realm of being an employer, and as well as that in the employee. So they, reverse roles. And that's one of the things that I do in the jail, but that's not a part of the tech program, but that's what I do. And I also do it now online. So we do the same thing online and the mock portion of it also. So that's, I think that's for me, the epitome of students once they learn how to do their profiles, their information, and then this culminates that information there. Our demotivator was Mrs. Carletta shared that when the student says that I can't, she's like, no. So she tells them always to let them not to say that, but to put their best foot forward and to make sure they do their best no matter how things come. And then you can say you did it. And then finally, for me, I just have a hard time. This technology is new for me, and I'm not a techie. As a matter of fact, I only get on this computer before this started to read emails. So I am just fully illuminated now, and a whole lot of things I didn't know. Yeah. So when technology for me doesn't work, I have to really kind of grasp that concept that it may not work. And so that's a demotivator for me when this technology doesn't work as I set my things in motion to work. So that's my demotivator.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you everyone for sharing. So what was the point of this? What is the point of categorizing ourselves into different types? The motivation for me was to help you guys see that there are certain things that you really brought to the table over the last year. No matter what type you fall into, you had something to offer. You have something to offer. You have certain strengths and skill sets. And there are also things that demotivate you because of the type of teacher that you are, and because of your strengths, you have other things that are challenging and demotivating for you. So my encouragement is to go into this next year and know your strengths, focus on projects that energize you. Choose those projects, invest in them, create them, follow through with them. And for everything that challenges and demotivates you, lean on your community to complete those tasks or to pivot your focus to those areas. So invest in the things that motivate you and energize you, and seek support for the things that don't, for the things that demotivate you. So in this next section, we're going to talk about tapping in. What does the phrase tap out mean? Where did that come from? And what does it mean to tap out of something? Put it in the chat box if you can for me. And Tiffany's talking about how she's a techie and creator. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it comes from wrestling. And essentially, in a nutshell, what is tapping out? Surrendering. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, giving up. Yep. Okay, and so I want to talk a little bit about strategies for tapping in. It's okay to tap out. If you tapped out this year during the pandemic, that's okay. We all have to tap out at some point. We all need breaks at some point. We all should know our limits, right? But I want to talk about strategies for tapping in. What do we do when the going gets tough? And how do we lean into it and keep going and persevere. So tapping out versus tapping in. I want to hear first, how do you stay motivated, and do you have any strategies for tapping in? I'm going to share a tool with you in a minute, but I want to hear from you. What do you do when you feel like tapping out? How do you get to the point where you can tap in and persevere, stay engaged, stay motivated? Does anybody have ideas or strategies? Okay, so to-do list. Yes, Tiffany, I'm like, oh my gosh, my to-do list out the wazoo. I've got 3 different kinds on my desk right now. Okay, a walk, some physical movement, doing research, right? Just getting the knowledge so you feel more confident and comfortable. Good one, Meryl. Help someone else. Good. That's a great strategy. Offer your strengths to another teammate or something. Awesome. Planning, yes. Helps you stay focused. Good. Any other ideas for tapping in? Those were great. So tap here, when I talk about tapping in, I'm actually using an acronym for a teacher action plan, okay? And so we're actually going to work on these a little bit in the next few minutes that we have left. I've created for you guys a teacher action plan. Sorry, one moment. A teacher action plan that I would encourage you to go through over the summer. Maybe start it now and then continue it over the next few weeks, but really give it some thought and work through it. Work through your teacher action plan. And the teacher action plan is all about looking at your strengths, looking at yourself as a unique teacher with special things to offer and special things that hold you back or demotivate and de-energize you. So looking at yourself as a unique individual, a unique teacher, and then using that as a platform from which you can launch into a new year of teaching, knowing yourself a little bit better and knowing what you want to invest your time in and where you can best give your energy. So the teacher action plan, I'm going to share a link to it in just a minute with you guys. You can see it, it's a Google Doc. So I'll share the link to the Google Doc in a minute for each of you to have your own copy. But I kind of want to explain some of the different areas. So we're going to use your teacher type. That's why we went through that process as a starting point for considering your unique strengths and challenges. And then using the last year as a launch pad for how you will move into the future of your role as an educator. So, I'm a big believer in the fact that when we face challenges, we should somehow memorialize those challenges when we have overcome them, because if we don't, it's all too easy to fall back into a normal routine. And so we've all just faced a pandemic together, which I'd say is a pretty decent challenge. And how are we going to kind of set up a monument in memory of this pandemic that will always remind us of the lessons that we learned during it? Let's not just fall back into normalcy and continue as if it hasn't happened, but let's leverage it to make us more effective and more energized and enthusiastic about what we do. So in the teacher action plan, you're going to list your strengths first. What do you bring to the table? What do you do really well? You can use your teacher type as a starting point for that list. And then energizing projects that you're going to invest in. So moving into the next fiscal year, what are some things that you want to work on? What are things that energize you that you could be really successful at creating or adapting or investing your time in? What are the challenges that you face moving into the next year? What do you know is waiting around the corner that's going to stump you? And then your support. When you face those challenges, who can you look to within your network when you're facing those challenges? Try to think about different teacher types, right? Who are the techies that you know that you can lean on? Who are the brains that you know that you can lean on? And then there's a column for next steps and notes. I have written in the next steps column, I've written some ideas for you guys for some things that you can consider as your next steps. The very first one is giving yourself some kind of tangible memory of the last year and putting it in a prominent place in your workspace so that you can look at it and remember the lessons that you've learned and utilize them and leverage them. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put this in the chat box. I'm going to close out our session with the link to this and a quote and my contact information. And I would love, you know, if you guys have a few extra minutes, jump into it and start filling it out. Please use it. And I know that it will be something that inspires you and helps you as you're trying to get remotivated and get back into this next year. And then a reminder, I love this quote by Helen Keller, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So we've identified the teacher types, and I just want to say that as educators, there's so much that we can do with our differences. We can lean on one another amongst those different types, and so much we can do with our similarities. We can bind ourselves together and really make big changes by using those similarities. Yes, I love this quote. And I think as educators, it can be so isolating as a teacher, right? You're in your own classroom working with your own students and you almost feel like you're in your own world. But when we start sharing resources, sharing ideas, that's when the most amazing things come out of the education field. So good, I'm glad you guys love this quote. Yes, remember it, lean on your people this year. Okay, this is my contact information. I'm gonna leave it up while I share the link to the Google Doc. It is a copy link, so the first page you'll be brought to asks you if you want to make a copy of the Google Doc. That's going to save it. That's going to save it automatically to your Google Drive. So hold on a second. I got to get to the slide and grab the link. And like I said, I hope you'll really make a copy of this and use it as a tool for reflection and for motivation. Okay, so there's the link. I just put the link in the chat. Here's my contact info on the screen. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, thank you. You guys have an amazing week. Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice to meet you all and have these conversations with you. So take care.